Okay, I wanted to make this video because Nerdicane got in contact with me, and he was telling me that GwenPool Strikes Back number, what is it, three? GwenPool Strikes Back number three is the worst comic of 2019 easily, and so I wasn't going to purchase it, obviously. I wasn't going to spend money on it, and even if I did, it wouldn't be here till the end of the month. Because of where I'm going to school, I gotta get my comics mailed in. Anyway, so I read it digitally. I read it with online scans, and this page it's all bad. It's all really really bad. But this page in particular caught my attention because I think this page here summarizes most of what I've been talking about, or at least a portion of what I've been talking about with these type of videos, this sort of genre. And I've got a Joker review on the way, so that should come out tomorrow or maybe later today. I don't know. I don't like to double upload. I like to if I have two videos ready, I like to put one after the other on the calendar. I think that helps the numbers a little bit. Um, but I wanted to talk about this because this is incredibly insulting to both readers and the characters that readers love. It's also insulting to the legacies of the characters and, of course, their creators. It's downright disrespectful. So I wanted to talk about this portion here first, right? So Gwenpool basically says this is the crowd that was created as eye candy and then became cool later. So this character here, who's been completely ruined as of recently, this is She-Hulk, okay? She was not created as eye candy. She was not created to be uh, that sort of character. She ended up being something of a sex symbol amongst readers and amongst creators, I might add. Um, but she was not created to be that way. She was created over a legal situation. She was created because the Incredible Hulk had a TV show at the time, a very popular show with Lou Ferrigno as the Hulk, and it was very popular. And it was Marvel's concern, it was the studio's concern that based off the success of the Incredible Hulk, somebody would create a legally distinct yet derivative character like She-Hulk or Hulk Woman or something like that. So the reason for She-Hulk's creation was that there was a corporate reason. The reason was because they wanted something to be theirs. They didn't want a legally distinct ripoff of one of their characters. You can say the same for Spider-Woman over here. But these are not like these are complex characters. These are not just derivatives. Because the thing is, that's probably not a good reason to do something creatively. But the thing is, back in the day, Marvel was filled with competent writers who cared about what they were doing. So these characters were handed off to writers who cared about what they were doing, who wanted to create good stories. And that's what happened, at least with She-Hulk. You could argue that Spider-Woman didn't become very interesting till later on. But Black Widow, again, this is incredibly insulting to Black Widow. Black Widow has always been an interesting character. Black Widow has never just been eye candy. That's very insulting to the character and to the writers who created her. Um, Now, the biggest perhaps felony here is Jessica Jones. Jessica Jones is put in with this group. Now, obviously, the writer of this book has never read Alias, because let me tell you something about Brian Michael Bendis's Alias. Brian Michael Bendis's Alias was supposed to star Spider-Woman, okay? That's who was supposed to be the star of Alias. He created this character right here, for Alias. She had not appeared before that. She was created to fill the role that the story required. And that role was an incredibly complex character who everybody who watched the Daredevil or the Jessica Jones TV show, for the most part, loved this character. That was all based off of her original story. It's not like she appeared and then 30 years later Brian Michael Bendis made her popular. This character, Jessica Jones, she was created in Alias. The story that the TV show is based off of, everything you like about this character, everything you like about this character was there from square one. Everything. Now, Atlas. First of all, why are we breaking up Atlas? Who cares about Atlas? Atlas was created as a Spider-Man villain back in Spectacular Spider-Man. He's not created as eye candy. I see. Ironically, what you've done here, I guess this is supposed to be some sort of commentary, maybe, but what you've done here is you've taken these respected characters and you've insulted them and you've torn them down to their most bare bones characteristics. You've made them a product of their aesthetics. You made them a product of their attractiveness rather than the actual character that they're supposed to represent. Now, Atlas here is a Spider-Man villain. Do you think that in Spectacular Spider-Man they were trying to appeal to female readers with this character? This fully clothed character. If anything, you could say that Peter Parker has been historically more of a fan service type character than Atlas. Tigra, I don't know too much about Tigra. I read her in West Coast Avengers. I don't really have any horse in that race, but some of these characters, this is really insulting, especially for Jessica Jones, because Jessica Jones is a really incredible character. She's a really complex character, and she's a very unique character. The sort of stories that are told with Jessica Jones, that were told in Alias, were the sort of stories that you saw incredibly rarely or never at all before. Like this is a groundbreaking character back in 2001 when she was created. Black Cat has always been a complex character. She's always been a product of her background, her psyche. She's always been a product of habit and self-destruction. She's never just... Now, I'll admit that one of her gimmicks is the sort of catsuit style bombshell, but that's not the character. That's a part of the character. That's a thing she uses to her advantage. That's part of what makes her her. But it's not, she wasn't created to be just eye candy. She was created to be an interesting character. And in fact, one of the integral parts of Spider-Man's character, one of his oldest friends in many ways. And frankly, what Dan Slott did with that character was insulting. But no, Black Cat is a good character, and I think Jed MacKay. Actually, I'll have to ask him what he thinks about this, because frankly, I think that Jed MacKay, the writer of Black Cat right now, would be really insulted by a statement such as that. Now, we're going to go down here now. We're going to sort of focus on this sort of group of characters. This is popular with young readers, bewildering to older readers. See, that's an insult. You don't want to slam your readers directly. Deadpool, She-Hulk, these fourth wall breaking characters who have been very popular historically, they've not insulted the readers in such a direct and personal manner. Basically, you're just coming right out and calling your readers racist or sexist. I mean, that's not what you want to do. That's not how you push product. That's not how you sell books. It's incredibly poor salesmanship. But the first character here, interestingly enough, is GwenPool, right? The funny thing about GwenPool is she actually started out as Gwen Stacy. She was literally created to be eye candy. That's the funny thing. That's the ironic thing here. She puts herself in the popular with young readers, bewildering to older readers. First of all, what young readers? I mean, I've seen very, very few young readers at my comic book shop. And I can tell you they weren't reading stuff like this. They were reading Amazing Spider-Man. They were reading Immortal Hulk. They weren't reading this. They weren't reading GwenPool. They weren't reading Wasp. Nobody was reading Wasp. They weren't reading Squirrel Girl or Moon Girl or anything like that. GwenPool was literally created to be a variant cover. There was a gimmick back in, I want to say 2015, where they made derivative characters based off Gwen Stacy. And one of the characters they created was GwenPool. And she was literally created to be a swimsuit model eye candy. That's it. That's it. Which is fine. It's just a variant cover. But then she's not Gwen Stacy anymore. She's literally called GwenPool. But she started as a Gwen Stacy derivative of Deadpool. It was meant to be a joke. It was meant to be a variant cover, nothing more. But this, for some reason, Marvel can't let anything go, and so they had to take this character and run with it because that variant cover was popular. That's literally what it is. The whole conceit behind her canceled multiple times book is that she was a variant cover that got kind of popular amongst collectors. That's it. That's her premise. That's who she is. Moving on. You could argue that Miss Marvel has gained some popularity. You could argue that she's gained popularity, but I wouldn't argue that it was just with young readers. I think that's stereotyping. You're saying that old readers don't like diverse characters inherently. But I'll tell you what, Miles Morales, incredibly popular with all age groups. All age groups. Everybody loves Miles Morales. Look no further than the box office numbers for Into the Spider-Verse. You're grouping him in, or you're grouping her in with the same with Miles Morales. You're saying people don't like these characters. Older people don't like these characters because they're different, because they're diverse. That is gross. You're calling people racist because they don't read books that they don't like. Miles Morales sells gangbusters. And I'm telling you that his numbers are not purely supported by young readers. I have every issue of Miles Morales' run of Ultimate Spider-Man ever published, okay? I'm telling you, most of the people who read that book were not my age. Most of the people who read that book were significantly older than me. It was the people who grew up with Ultimate Spider-Man. It was the people who were interested in Ultimate Spider-Man, who were interested in what Brian Michael Bendis was doing. Ultimate Spider-Man was one of the top-selling books at Marvel. Miles Morales is not just a sort of focal point of interest for young people. He's a focal point of interest for all ages. Nadia Pym. I mean, could you get any more Mary Sue than her and Moon Girl over here? Everybody likes them. Nobody questions them on anything. Nobody tells them to calm the hell down. Nobody tries to level out their egos. Especially Moon Girl. Moon Girl has this ridiculously insatiable ego. She's existed for, 5 minutes? And she thinks she's like the hottest shit in the Marvel Universe. It's ridiculous. You need to prove it. Okay? When you say a character is this and that, you can't just say it. You have to prove it. This character, they've done nothing. Everybody loves them inexplicably. They have no opposition. Nobody ever argues with them. They never lose. They just are perfect. Except for Nadia, recently, they introduced the element that she's bipolar, which I think is fantastic. I mean, you've got to deepen that character. You've got to add to that mythos. Otherwise, she's nothing. She's a nothing character. But it was too little, too late. She's just not an interesting character. Her first series got canceled after 8 issues. What does that tell you? I mean, it didn't even get out of its. It didn't even get out of the year it was published. It got canceled in the same year it started. And her second series made it to 10 issues. That's pathetic. That's really, really pathetic. You're saying this is one of your primary characters now, an Avenger, and they're selling only 8 issues, 10 issues per volume before they're canceled? Not ended, canceled. Moon Girl, by the way, is most certainly, first of all, none of these characters, with the exception of Miles Morales and maybe Kamala Khan, are popular with anybody. So I did some research on the sales figures here, especially not her. I did some research on the sales figures here. Moon Girl, you're trying to push, you're trying to give a cartoon show, which, by the way, nobody watches. I should mention, Squirrel Girl is one of the most prominent figures in this Marvel Rising series. I haven't seen a single episode. I don't know anybody who's seen a single episode. I don't know anybody, except for maybe Nerdicane, who even knows what it is. I remember it was solicited, what, 2 years ago? I didn't even know when it came out. Nobody watches it. And you've got this character in it, you've got this character in it, you've got Captain Marvel in it, you've got all these like SJW characters. And you still, like, you're saying all these characters are popular, yet you can't sell a TV series with all of them together. When you took Iron Man, when you took Captain America, when you took Hulk, when you took Thor, characters who are genuinely actually popular, and you put them together, what happened is you got one of the top selling films of all time. You got one of the most watched child TV shows, child age TV shows on television. Okay? That's what happens when you put these characters together. I cannot think of a more perfect demonstration of how unpopular these characters are when you claim that they're as popular as these other characters, and then you try to put them together, and somehow the sales get worse. Somehow it gets less recognition than before. Because I don't know anybody, I don't know a single person who has seen a single episode of Marvel Rising. Let's go over some sales figures here for Moon Girl. Moon Girl, who is apparently one of your primary characters now. You're putting her in all the promotional art. You're putting her in everything. Moon Girl sells, as of August, which is, according to Comic-Thron, one of the top selling months for comics, at least last year. This is supposed to be a primary Marvel title. In August, which is the last month I have sales figures for, that's the most recent sales figures I have. So this is the most up-to-date figure I can provide for you. Moon Girl is pushing, by the way, not selling, pushing. That is to say, this is how many units shipped. Moon Girl shipped 5,295. She was in the 200ths of selling of comics. She was outsold by Jughead. She was outsold by Vampirella. She was outsold by My Little Pony. She was outsold by Power Rangers. She was outsold by almost everything. Almost every recognizable comic book. There's no recognizable books under her, really. There's, like... I can't express how terrible that is for a Marvel comic book. Especially something that's supposed to be, like, a primary title now. Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur ships, not sells, ships. As of the last figure's release, 5,295 copies. That's bad. That's bad. In my in my notes here, I literally just said 5,295 copies. Bad. That's bad. That's what it ships. And we all know that Marvel overships. And this is a complaint that I've gotten from the owner of the comic book store I frequent. That Marvel overships. Especially, he said, books like Moon Girl, books like Wasp, books like Squirrel Girl, books that don't sell, books that nobody cares about. That's what they overship. It's pathetic. And you have the audacity. So I have to assume, to have the audacity to go out there and straight up insult your reader base, your supposed reader base, you have to either, one, you have to be an idiot. Two, you have to just, like, be in such an echo chamber state that you genuinely don't know. Or three, you think your readers are so stupid that they can't Google the sales figures for this stuff, that they can't Google how many issues things ran for, what they were selling this month, what they were selling that month, or some sort of combination thereof. I mean, you'll have to either be completely delusional, you have to be in some sort of like echo-controlled environment where you're only getting the data people want you to have. You have to be an idiot, or you have to think that your fans or your readers are so stupid that they can't do basic research. And I mean, that is the most insulting thing of all here, isn't it? I mean, right? And you've got your varsity team up here. You got Iron Man, Captain America, Captain Marvel, Thor, and Black Panther. That's your varsity team? That's Marvel's varsity team, is it? Alright. Anyway, guys. I'm Ethan Ainsworth. You can check out my podcast, Knights of Marvel Podcast. It's nothing like this. It just focuses on the positives of comics. You can find that on Podbean, iTunes, Google Play, Listen FM, iHeartRadio, wherever. It's everywhere, man. Knights of Marvel Podcast. Knights, a Marvel Podcast. Go check it out. Appreciate it, guys.